If you're a guy in your 20s and you don't have a Lamborghini, you should actually sit down and have like a serious discussion with yourself as to why you don't have
bro.
Hey guys, it's Brian and Bo. We're back with some more TikTok reacts. These things are like whack-a-mole. There's an unlimited supply of things for us to react
Brian,
to.
I am so excited about this because just like you said, there's an unlimited supply of both good and bad information. So I wonder what the team has planned for us today. Let's jump right in.
When you don't pay the debt collectors, which by the way, to the audience, you should never pay a debt collector because the debt doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the debt collector. Let me explain this to you. If I owe Amex $1,000 and I say I refuse to pay you, right? And they sell my debt to ABC Debt Collections Company, LLC. The debt doesn't belong to James Chang anymore. The debt belongs to ABC Debt Collectors. Why should I pay a debt that doesn't even belong to me anymore? Most people get scared because debt collectors, if you don't pay, we're going to garnish your way. They get scared. No, it's against the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. You don't have to pay debt collectors.
What happened to your name is, you know, the word, the moment, the shame. I mean, that's just crazy advice. And by the way, and it ruined your future purchasing power.
Yeah, you don't have to pay your debt. Where is this mindset coming from? If you make an obligation, you say, hey, I'm going to buy this thing, but I don't have money to pay for it, so I'm going to borrow money to do that. You are on the hook for that. And this idea that they cannot come after you, they cannot hurt you, is absolutely asinine. They can come after you, they can hurt you, they can garnish your wages. You do not want to be in that place.
I don't want to ruin it. I don't know if that's just to get clicks, but that's a disaster if you actually tried to implement that.
And I would argue if you let your debt even get to the collections process, you're already doing it wrong. By the time it gets to the debt collector, you've already made a mistake. You need to do a self-assessment to figure out what decision am I making.
If you're using debt and you're not scared, you're using it wrong. So don't let somebody like this distract you.
All right, thanks for paying your rent this month. Go ahead and sign here. Just gonna ask you a couple of questions.
A tip? I'm not tipping my landlord.
So you'll tip a barista who pours overpriced coffee into a cup, but not the guy who's on call 24/7 to make sure you have a safe home.
Is he advocating for this?
I'm not tipping you. This isn't a restaurant.
Okay, so you'll tip an extra 25% for somebody to carry you a basket of chicken wings, but you won't tip someone who responds for after-hours emergency calls?
I think he is advocating for it.
I thought this was farce, but
well, I guess when it's time for your lease renewal, I'm going to make sure gratuity's included in your rent. It's a little tip I learned from Two Guys Take on Real Estate.
So, Brian, I got a great idea, right? You know, we own a commercial building here. We have some tenants that rent from us. We should, outside of our office, just put a little tip jar for the landlord. Hey, if you liked your service this month, if you liked having this building, go ahead and drop a little tip in the bucket for us.
Let me tell you, nobody is going to tip your landlord of any type. I mean, when I even went and like protested our taxes because they went up like 100% in a year, even the government officials don't want to give anything to. So this is way off. Look, there is an issue, a discussion to be had about tip culture because I've even gone on a mini rant about how I went to a Shake Shack, didn't interact with a single individual, and yet it was asking for if I wanted to do a default tip of like 25%. That's one discussion, but I don't know. I think hopefully his tongue was firmly in his cheek that we're going to start asking for tips from our tenants as well.
Don't mishear us. We love tipping. We love gratuity. We love showing people that we appreciate them, but do it at the right times when it's justified, when it makes sense. Don't fall prey to the social contract of someone turning over a screen to you and you immediately thinking, oh, I have to click the button because they asked me the question. Sometimes the best answer you can click is no, and that's okay.
If you're a guy in your 20s and you don't have a Lamborghini, you should actually sit down and have like a serious discussion with yourself as to why you don't have a Lambo.
Yep.
Because I realize now that it's so incredibly easy and there's so much money out there.
So easy.
And 200 grand relative to what is out there in circulation and what you can grab, especially now with AI tools that you can leverage like never before, 200 grand is chump change.
Chump change.
Okay. Do you think, Brian, that $200,000, especially for someone in their 20s, classifies as chump change?
First of all, not chump change. Also, if you said $200,000 Lamborghini, $200,000 Lamborghini, if I'm in my 20s, I'm probably making the $200,000 become multiple million down the road. Not saying that the Lamborghini might not appreciate.
Right.
But I put more value in what I could do if I invested that army of dollars.
What I think is wild is that the average household income for Americans is somewhere between $60,000 to $80,000 a year for a household. And this guy's saying it's so easy to go out there and make $200,000. I just would not buy into that. That it does not suggest that you cannot go out and make that kind of income, but thinking that it's easy and you can do it overnight, I feel like is a false hope.
Wealth building is a long-term journey process. Average millionaire, 28 years, 49 years of age. Don't let that excite you that a little bit can go a long way. So if you can just take a little bit today for that great, big, beautiful tomorrow, it's going to pay off. But don't let somebody like this distract you or lead you into making bad decisions.
Or maybe take it even a step further. You should go to our website, moneyguy.com/resources, and download our wealth multiplier. And there you'll learn that for a 20-year-old, $1 can turn into $88. So even if you could buy that Lamborghini, think about how much that $200,000 is actually costing your future self, and I bet you'll double take.
If you want to build for your kid's future, take out a credit card in there.
Sunglasses
And not
indoors.
to build credit, to destroy it. I have 18 different credit cards maxed out in my son's name, and
This
his
is a
credit
farce.
score
He's being
is
funny.
dumpster fire. Without paying upfront in cash, he will never be able to buy a home. He will never be able to buy a car, but he will have something priceless. Motivation. I started with nothing. Imagine what my son can do if he starts with less than nothing.
You remember that movie a couple of years ago called Minority Report, right? Where they would get arrested for crimes that had not happened yet. Yeah, that's it. Tom, you're doing the best Tom Cruise right there. That's it.
Practically Tom Cruise.
That's basically what he's saying. If I can get out in front of my son and I can just remove his option to make bad decisions, boy, how much better off will he be?
Obviously, he's being funny. We should go back to doing more costume episodes.
Oh, that's an idea.
One thought.
Let's keep going.
Here's why you should never pay off your house.
So there he is,
Your
Chris.
house, it's worth $100,000. That's what this stack is worth. And you've been told by Dave Ramsey and other people, I got to get my house paid off because I'm going to be financially free. False. Most people will accelerate getting their house paid off by throwing extra money on their 30-year mortgage. And maybe after 20 years you do it. You finally wipe it out. You own your house free and clear. I got news for you. What do you have for retirement?
You hate that you agree with him.
You put all your focus in getting your house paid off. Instead, mortgage that house, access the majority of this money. You know what I'd use it for? I'd go buy 5 more houses.
Oh, okay.
Imagine
All
those
right.
first 5
All right.
houses
Okay,
are
good.
each cash flow
I have something I can get
$500
mad
a
at him
month.
for.
But a few years later, you're going to sell those 5 for 15 more, and you're going to sell those 15 for 50 more. Now imagine $500 coming off of every one of those houses.
I do have a look. There's just enough. This is why
He was
Chris
doing so good. He was doing so good.
But he puts enough of good stuff in with the crazy that it makes your brain short circuit. But the thing that I think is interesting is that it is true. You can use leverage and keep expanding, and it's all great while things are good. While there's rainbows outside, while there's unicorns in the meadows, it all works beautifully. But the moment that somebody quits paying their mortgage, and yet you still have the banks that require you to pay the mortgage, you still have all the maintenance that has to be done, that's when it goes disastrous. And that's why if you want to get in real estate, we love real estate. I've shared before, we have 8 figures in real estate, but we love it with deep pockets. You got to have enough money to get through the hardship. Now, Bo, what do you think about paying off your mortgage?
Yeah, he started so good. He was saying, hey, one of the problems people have is they get so excited to pay off their house that they're not actually building wealth outside of their house. And, Dave Ramsey always talks about, hey, if you have a mortgage, you're not factoring in risk. You're not factoring in risk. Well, we would make the argument that if you're not building wealth outside of your home equity, there is a big risk that you are taking on by not having your dollars working for you. Listen, if you want to be debt-free, if that's one of your goals, that is okay. But we think it should happen inside the financial order of operations after step 7, after you are saving at least 25% for your future self. Then, if you want to pay off the mortgage early, you certainly can. Now, I'd make an argument. The mathematics might suggest otherwise for very young people, but if you're saving your 25%, you get to choose, because what you don't want to do is get to retirement, have a paid-for house, and still can't afford groceries.
What's your best advice if I want to get a girlfriend? And work at a bank, because then you have access in front of their profile. You get to see their transactions,
goodness
learn
gracious.
your habits.
This is
Therefore,
like
it
Stalker
actually sees you
101.
3 dates. So by then, you actually create conversation according to what you see in their profile, and then you take them on the first date. Have you worked at a
Nobody
bank
does
before?
this.
I did. That's how I met my wife. How'd you meet your
No.
wife? I
about working at a bank?
She was at the teller line. The teller saw her profile. We started talking. I looked at her profile and I saw that she had good spending habits. So I asked her on a date.
What constitutes good spending habits?
Anybody that doesn't eat a lot of fast food, you get to see what kind of transactions they do on the weekends. So they do a lot of clubbing. That's a red flag. And then also they have a credit card that's been paid off.
Now, look, I want to fight this, but before I was adopted, I lived with my grandparents for a while. And my grandfather was an amazing man. He always told me, son, before you get married, make sure for the future wife who you're investigating marrying, ask her for two things. Ask her for her medical record and ask her for a checking account statement so you can verify. And I was like, Grandpa, that's crazy. And I understand where it's coming from, but maybe that's a little aggressive. Maybe that's a bit much when it comes to choosing your life partner.
By the way, couldn't you do everything he talked about without working at the bank?
Yeah,
I mean, in this new modern world, there's the more without being so committed to getting a job and stalking this person. You can just look somebody up on the web. You can Google somebody.
Yeah, follow their Instagram. Check out their page. Maybe if you're have a conversation about the ways that you guys
communication.
Look at money.
You know what? I've heard that's really important in relationships.
It might make a lot of sense before you jump into this thing to make sure you're on the same page. And if you're not, then maybe this partnership that you're going to enter into might not work as well.
I will say, because I always like to add a little bit of reality of something that kind of gives power to the comedy. It is definitely a measure twice, cut once on finding your life partner, but you don't have to be creepy about it.
Don't. I'm not going to look at my banker the same now.
You see that right there? Ronnie Lambert,
goodness.
CEO of Fortress.
Joker.
I don't do this as an ego thing. The reason I'm doing this is so I can write off my clothes, because clothing is not tax deductible. But when you put your name on it or you put your signature on your shirt, it's now a uniform. So I get to write off the clothes. I get to write off.
If only this was true, it would be great.
I get to write it off. I get to save more of my own hard-earned money. If you want to learn more about how to pay less in taxes,
send him a DM. My IRS, send him a DM. Brian, you're an accountant. This was your professional life for so many years. Is this the strategy that we're all missing out on? Is this what we're screwing up?
Listen, there's enough reality here that it makes you go, man, maybe he's on to something. But then there's I imagine if you're an IRS agent and you watch TikToks like this, are you not scribbling his name down and go, man, at some point maybe we need to start an inquiry here? Because there is nothing wrong if you're a corporation or a business and you want to go print some shirts or vest or pullover with your logo on it and you want to hand them out to employees, you want to wear them yourself, clients. You want to give them to customers and people, that just to kind of get your brand awareness out there. That's completely deductible. You could do that. Now, where he lost me is he opens up and he's got the suit there with his name on it. And it's almost like, you know how when you're a kid and you lick the apple or the ice cream cone so your friends wouldn't, want to share it? I feel like by putting his name on it, somehow it's his and it's deductible. That's a falsehood. It's got to be within an actual need for the business. They've actually talked about clothing. Is that clothing, if there's things that are already just required for work. That's why commuting expenses are not deductible for car purchases. That's why you wearing clothing, because it would be bad form if you showed up to work naked. They just assume you've got to show up with clothing on. Everything's deductible until you get caught.
Love it.
Doesn't mean it's right, though. I'm telling you, as soon as you get caught, you'll be like, ooh, maybe I shouldn't have put that on TikTok.
So everyone wants to know, how do you become a millionaire? So I'm going to show you the strategy that I use to make over $1 million. First step, you need a little bit of money. Once you have that money, invest it into something that has potential to blow up in the near future. For example, Warren Buffett, he invested in Apple back in 2016, and now he makes over $800 million a year just from his investments. But bro, finding the next Apple is impossible. Newsflash, it ain't frickin' easy and it takes work, so I'm gonna show you how to do it. First step is to go to Twitter or some other social media platform. Go to the search bar and type in different hashtags that relate to what you want to invest in. You'll find a bunch of stuff like this. People talking about different stocks, different cryptos, everything. And eventually I found this one called ScarSpeed. Next step is to go to the company's website and see if it actually has potential. Now this one is a car racing game.
Somebody needs to go watch Polo Room.
You can buy NFTs for it right now. Find
the
a
website will tell you
get in early and then wait. If you want to check that one out, go to this website.
I think when we go look 7 years in the future, because he gave the Warren Buffett 2016 to now, I don't know that we get the same results. It seems a little off.
None of his information was, hey, go look at the company, go look at their financials, understand their business, understand what their competitive advantages are, look at how well they steward the capital that they're entrusted with. None of that stuff. It was, hey, go to their website, go to their marketing brochure, go to the thing that's going to make them look as good as possible and say, Is this a good idea? That is absolutely asinine. That's not the way that you decide what to invest in.
I think the timing of this is pretty incredible. When I saw Warren Buffett's picture, the word that pops up, or two words that pop up, is intrinsic value. Warren, make sure he's done his homework. He knows what companies are worth. And it made me think, 2008, October of 2008, me and some friends saw that Apple was trading, same company he was talking about, was trading at not much more than the cash they had on hand and the value of the buildings, their campus. Meanwhile, all the other value out there was just because the market was very inefficient. Intrinsic value and reality were separated and decoupled. This friend put $5,000 in Apple, still owns it. It's worth $350,000. Guys, so there is opportunity, but it's not by looking at hashtags. It's understanding intrinsic value. What is a company worth? What are the financial statements? And by the way, there's an easier way to do this without even buying the individual stock. Just go buy an index fund.
I love it.
You know what is in the index? All the high-performing stocks, no matter what's going on, innovation, expansion, their indexes are always adding what is growing and expanding, what's dropping off. You can do that without wasting any calories or horsepower and make it happen.
If someone wanted to make $1 million, that was their dream in life, what would you recommend to them?
Anyone can really become a millionaire because the world is so big and the markets are so massive.
Anyone can
All you got to do is get $1 from a million people out of 8 billion. If you just walk around every single day,
this is like the modern day chain letter.
You get to $1 million pretty easily. So imagine if you actually worked hard. It's actually not that difficult. I think the hardest part is figuring out what is it that you have about your personality, your skill set that can actually get you there, because you can waste your time in a lot of ways that don't get you anywhere.
I like the end part, right? He said, hey, figure out your skill set, figure out what's unique about you, figure out your unique competitive advantage. But just because you figure that out doesn't mean that getting to $1 million is easy. Certainly not over the short term. Over the long term, it's not incredibly difficult. But this idea of, there's 8 billion people, I'll just ask $1 million of them for $1. You know what? I don't think that would work.
No,
I don't think that would work.
I'm waiting for a prospect to come through the doors that made their millions through panhandling.
They panhandled their way to wealth.
I have yet to find that person. But I do think that the last two to three sentences were very valuable, though, because I've had clients as well as clients who have successful adult children. And it is something, if you can take an inventory of your talents, what do you do better than 95% of the rest of the world? And is there a way you can lean into that economically and actually make a living at it? I do think there's tremendous opportunity, because I wholeheartedly believe every one of us has a talent that puts us in the top 5% of something. Your task is figure out what that is, and how do you create economic value where somebody gleefully gives you their hard-earned money to do what you do or what you make. Figure that out, and you will be a success.
I like that a lot better than asking 1 million people for $1.
You want to retire with $10,000 a month at age 60. You got to look in your bank account and have 3.5 million. Or you just listen to what Austin and I are talking about. Go buy 10 Airbnbs and boom, you're done. You go buy 2 apartment buildings, boom, you're done. And I guarantee if you put your energy towards it, within 2 years, you can have an apartment building and you're free.
Anybody can get in the game we're talking about. Time, consistency, doing it day in and day out, proximity, get around people that have what you want.
Anybody can go out and just buy 10 Airbnbs. Anybody can manage apartment buildings. It's easy. Piece of cake. It's crazy that everybody doesn't do it.
I want to ask you a question. We own the commercial building. We got the contract on the commercial building in February. When did we close?
June 30th of that same year.
And was it an easy process?
No, not even almost. Not even almost. I don't know how people that are not financially minded, that can put together financials, that can do all the stuff, would even be able to navigate. You know what's not been easy since then? Actually running that business, actually making that work, actually making the dollars come in. The brochure sounds great, but I don't know the brochure tells the full story.
Another thing, Airbnb has had a little bit of an issue is that I don't know if you've seen all the articles about big events, Super Bowls and other things where Airbnb people, because the market has gotten somewhat saturated as well as it's been heavily restricted by local governments. I think it's this whole brochure of how easy it is to create wealth through this. Whereas this is far from passive income. Right. It's also got a lot of risk, because it's back to, if you're using leverage debt and people quit paying the rent, they quit taking your bookings, plus you have higher maintenance, you could quickly see that this gets upside down very quickly. don't cut the corner off of wealth creation, because there is definitely a better way to do money and a path to creating success. And it's not always just loading yourself up with so much borrowed money. There's actually a path where you just take a little bit today to build that great big beautiful tomorrow. Start investing as soon as you can. Just put some money into action so you can actually build that financial independence that all these influencers make seem so simple, but very much disconnected from the reality of what we see with our wealth management business.
Yeah, building wealth is surprisingly simple, but it's not easy. If you can exercise the 3 components of wealth creation, discipline, money, and time, over a long enough time period, you too can build wealth without having to figure something out, without having to find some special sauce to do. It's the whole reason why we do this show. It's the whole reason why we make available free resources at moneyguy.com/resources or courses at learn.moneyguy.com so that you can do money better, certainly better than these influencers are suggesting.
Guys, I'm Brian. This is Bo. We want to make sure your money works as hard as you do with your back, your hands, and your brain. Money Guy team out.